So thank you very much, Marco, for the invitation. Thanks for being able to speak here. My name is Franz, and I'm representing an association called the European Partnership for Energy and the Environment, EPE. We are representing the voice of the refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump industry in Europe. We sit in Brussels. Our members are the big producers of that equipment, Panasonic, Mitsubishi, Carrier, also Danfoss, Emerson, plus some associations such as ARIA, the Installer Federation, etc. So altogether, we have formed an association, and we are there to discuss with policymakers such as the European Commission, but also the European Parliament, what we think of certain laws, proposals, regulation proposals, such as, of course, the F-gas regulation, which is a key, key piece of legislation that will clearly mark and transform our industry. So, what's important here is we wanted to show that our members represent all the applications of refrigeration, air conditioning, and heat pump equipment. So, as most of you tend to know, we are a huge sector, which is testified by this huge trade fair. So often policymakers think, when they think about the heat pump revolution, only about those small residential apparatuses that replace the gas boiler. But probably most of you know, our industry makes much more and contributes much more to the energy transformation than with the small residential heat pumps. And those various applications need a diversity of refrigerants, HFCs, HFOs, and of course natural refrigerants. And that's what we are trying to discuss with policymakers, what is possible and what is not possible when it comes to the refrigerant transition. This is a very complicated slide with a very complicated graph, but it contains the key message that I would like to come forward with here. We have made our own modeling, the HFC Outlook EU. And in that model, we put all the equipment that's existing in Europe, all the refrigeration, air conditioning, heat pump equipment, the expected growth of various sectors, how much, by how much more millions will we have in 2030 in terms of air-to-air, small, large, medium, air-to-air, air-to-water, etc. And how much HFC will we need for the refrigerant transition, taking into account the growth of our sector in million tons of CO2 equivalent here. And we've compared that to what the European Commission has proposed in terms of how much HFC are you actually allowed to use with every year, because we have this HFC phase-down quota in the current regulation, but then a much tougher in the new one, as Marco has explained in his presentation, also Cornelius has explained. So basically, you have here three curves, and they're accumulative. So this amount is what we think will be needed for servicing existing equipment. So operation, maintenance, and retrofilling of existing equipment in the market. On top of that, how much will we need for the new equipment that comes on the market? And of course, it's not only in Germany, but throughout Europe, there's a lot of policies, a lot of drive for more heat pumps, to replace fossil fuel, to get to become energy independent. So, but of course, millions of more heat pumps will use less and less. Will use refrigerant with less and less global warming potential. Obviously, some of them will work with natural refrigerants, no problem. But of course, you still need some of it, in our opinion at least, to cater for the huge growth that we will see in this decade. And on top of that, we have modeled what we think will be needed for exporting equipment outside the European Union. And then we have compared those needs with, first of all, the current phase-down quota, and then with what the Commission proposed as new phase-down quota. And so you have those steps. You have 2024. The next step for reduction is 2027, and the next step is 2030. Then, by the way, it goes further, 2033, etc., but we don't show that anymore. And here, you basically see, and that's the key message I would like to convey. If there's one thing I would love that you remember from my presentation, is that we believe that with the new proposal, from 2027 onwards, all that is left in terms of HFC quota will be needed for existing equipment, for servicing existing equipment. That would mean that all new equipment, whether it's refrigeration, air conditioning, or heat pumps, will not be able to use HFCs. So either they have to go to use HFOs or natural refrigerants. And I let everybody of you wonder, where is that possible, where is that not possible? And this is of course where the discussion starts. But I think we should be aware. I mean, Cornelius disagrees a little bit with me. I think, no, there's probably more. There's more you can use maybe from the medical dose inhaler sector. Maybe they need less, etc. But I think those are details. The key point that our industry has to ask itself is, how can we deal with a world? How could we deal with a world from 2027 when we have, at best, very little HFC left in Europe? And there's a question of cost, right? I mean, a lot of things are technologically possible, but when you transition to new refrigerants, that's cost. And if you want the heat pump revolution, if you want to install millions of new heat pumps, the cost element for consumers will be very important. Very often I come back to that. Well, what's technologically possible and what's not often depends from application to application. Where can you use flammable hydrocarbons, where not? And finally, and that's then of course very important for Marco and Area and the installers community, even if you have the right equipment on the market to the right price, you still need the installers who are certified and trained with natural refrigerants to put them in your house, in your shopping mall, etc. So huge challenges ahead. And just as a food for thought, I mean, if you walk around this fair, I fully agree with Cornelius, you see an amazingly innovative sector. Loads of things are happening. Loads of things are transitioning. Loads of things that were not possible some year. I guess 2018, I wasn't there yet. Now are possible to do with non-HFCs. But there will always be. This is an example. It's a couple of examples. There will always be examples where you cannot use propane heat pumps, for example, because for safety restrictions. Those are examples where you can install a heat pump, but just not with propane if you take into account the current safety restrictions. So I'll leave you with that. So we will have very interesting times ahead. Lots of interesting discussions with policymakers. What will be possible? What will not be possible? But please remember, a key date for our industry is 2027. In view of the new F-gas regulation. Thank you.